Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Common Ground. My name is Josh, that's Chris, and this is the show where we like to bring you different news headlines or different things making the news, and we like to give you our perspectives from a Democrat point of view and a Republican point of view. So this week we're starting right off. I think the big thing in the news that everybody's talking about is the debt ceiling this week. So me and Chris figured we'd give that a go and try to delve into that territory there that we have no expertise in. I just want to give everybody a heads up. We're not economists, any of that. We're just two average Americans, and we just have to live here. So this is we're trying to come up with ways that we can progress this or just have these conversations that a lot of people aren't having.
Yeah, I'm ready to have the discussion. Obviously, it's the hot topic right now. I'd much rather play pickup sticks with my butt cheeks than talk about this. Uh, but since we don't want to do that on YouTube, we probably would lose this video to the YouTube people.
Yeah, we
But
get banned.
anyway, we're gonna, like Josh said, we're gonna try to come at you with a few facts and what we know. It's another topic yet that goes down all kinds of rabbit holes. We're going to do our best to explain it as best we can, give our opinion, and then end it up with what do we think we can do better as from our level as just some average Americans, and we definitely know we can do something better. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
basically, in a nutshell, it's a dangerous game of chicken on both sides. Republicans and Democrats are going to play this out, and then supposedly, this is, by the way, this is not our first time with this. I think the debt ceiling's been raised 78, 79 times. I'm not sure exactly when we started that. I think it was back around World War One ish, World War 1915 or something. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's nothing new. And it
Yeah.
seems like the farther we progress, the more it becomes let's scare the shit out of all the American people because we're going to close the government and Social Security people aren't going to get paid and blah, 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 blah. I don't see it that way. But basically, June 1st is D-Day, Armageddon. Here we go. Let's turn this into something it's probably not. And if they default, I will agree, I will say it would be catastrophic if we default on our payments. Um, they got to get together and they got to have some common ground. They got to compromise both sides. And I truly think that this becomes a big game of power on both sides. And they work for us. They're our public servants. And the more they play these games and risk an actual catastrophe, which could happen if we default on our loans, we've never experienced that before. I'm of the opinion we don't have to, based on some information that I gathered in my research. Uh, I'm of the opinion that this is not a big deal. It's simpler than they're making it. What do you think?
Yeah, man, it's all, and you said it. It's all a big political game. It's just they're each and both
At
sides are
our
using it.
expense.
Right, exactly. We are the only ones that are going to be paying for this. So, their salaries will continue to get paid, and they're not going to have any issues. I mean, the poor people, it's a regressive tax. The thing with like interest rates and things like that. So the poor people, it comes out of your pocket, and you feel that more. You make $230,000 a year, which these senators do. It hurts a little bit less, your pocket, and they have book deals and a million other things going on. So that's what I like to keep everybody or keep that in mind for everybody is that this ultimately affects the average American. So while they're playing brinksmanship and both sides are trying to push their points across, if we do default, we're going to be paying. There's going to be dire consequences, and it's not it's not the end of the world, but according to a lot of economists, which, like I said, me and Chris aren't economists, so we're kind of going off the information that we're given.
Yeah, we're
But
just folks. We're just average people that have to work for a living, and we
yeah,
try to
yeah,
keep up and keep engaged. And it's not easy because this is a very complicated subject.
yeah,
Most of the things we talk about, we could talk for hours and hours and hours. Unfortunately, we don't have the time, and we know you folks don't have the time, and none of us have the attention span to really dive into this.
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's very complicated, and it's something archaic. Like you said, it started back between World War I, World War II. It's been going on in this country for a while. but it's kind of like an artificial limit that we place on ourselves. So the government itself, places this limit. Um, and every time we come close to it, I know during Obama's time we came pretty close, and our credit rating was actually dropped, or so we have seen effects from it before. We've never crossed the X date, as they call it. Uh, but I wouldn't like to cross it. And like Chris said, I don't think there's any reason to cross it. I think, Republicans and
And
Democrats have to get together and figure
and
something out.
is it possible? Yeah, it's completely possible. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to run this right up to the 11 hour and 59 minute mark,
Yeah.
just to keep exciting everyone and give the media more shit to bitch about and us to argue about and scare people,
Yeah.
because it does scare people. In my mind, it doesn't scare me because it's just a game that they play, and they played it before. And the last time this country was debt free, believe it or not, was 1835. And 1835 to 1837. We've been in debt ever since. I'm of the opinion that our debt is mind blowing at 31 plus trillion dollars, but there's a lot of metrics involved with that. But we have a spending problem in this country, in my opinion. We have our revenue's fine. I actually had some numbers I took here from the U.S. Department of Treasury fund data. In 2023, so far, we've taken in $2.69 trillion dollars. And we're about what, halfway through. We've spent already $3.61 trillion dollars. 2022, we took in, and this is our tax money, folks. Most of this revenue is our tax dollars.
Yeah. The government gets their money from us. Exactly.
The government doesn't produce anything. We produce money, give it to them, and then they go and, for the most part, waste it. I'm a
Yeah.
big. This is a big problem for me. The money we waste in this country. But anyway, in 2022, we took in 4.9 trillion. We spent 6.27 trillion. I don't care if it was Trump or Biden or Obama. I don't care who's spending the money, because they're all doing it. Every single president is creating more debt. That's a fact. I'm of the opinion, stop spending money. We have got to pay our bills, which I'll let you speak to that. Most of this debt ceiling is to pay bills that we've already accrued, correct?
Yes, yes, that's exactly correct. It's not anything that's forthcoming. It's not a new bill or anything that they're trying to pass and trying to add to the. No, these are bills that have already been passed, and pretty much, to keep the government working. And some of these bills expire in 1 year, some of them in 10 years, some of them in 5 years. But every year you have to keep paying these bills, for Congress to keep moving forward. And like Chris said, it's not anything. This has already been debated. So the bills that have already been passed, they've already had their time period to be discussed and debated on both sides, and they were passed ultimately by
The
both sides,
money,
both
the money
presidents. So
that
these were,
is this money has already been allocated to
yeah,
some probably few good things, but it whatever's been allocated, the waste has already happened. Now we got to pay
oh
for
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yep,
my
exactly.
issue is
So
moving forward.
yeah,
We gotta control spending. I don't see a
yeah.
way around that, and I'm going to hold our politicians to that. They're not going to listen, but
And this is the one thing where I lean conservative, and you guys will find, I'm not a straight up and down liberal where I just follow blindly. I do believe that we need to rein in some spending in this country. One of my big things that I always talk about is the military. It's a $1 trillion budget. It's like $800 billion, but that's the official budget. The black budget, by some estimates, 500 to 800 $1 million. So it's over $1 trillion guaranteed. So that's every year. $1 trillion on our military. That's what we find as a country important. That's what we like to. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think our military needs $1 trillion every year. But there's a million other programs, that can also be. We talk about immigration policy or healthcare or a million things that this country spends money on, and mind you, we're probably like the number one country that spends money. We spend the most on healthcare out of any country. We spend the most on military out of any country. We spend the most on
and our healthcare is
energy,
subpar,
and yeah,
and our
yeah, yeah,
healthcare
for
is
sure.
subpar.
Yep. Yep. So we need to figure out as a country what's important to us, what's important to the average American, and on both sides. I mean, this is something that we can both agree on. It's at the end of the day, this country has to keep moving forward. We have to keep progressing, and we can't just sit back and say, nope, I'm not passing the debt ceiling. Now, I understand concerns. I understand that Republicans are trying to reduce the spending and all that, and which I wholeheartedly agree with. It's just doing it, playing this brinksmanship game with the debt ceiling. I don't think it's doing anybody any favors.
Another concern I have, and we have a topic coming up here to you and I think in previous conversation we have a disagreement about. We'll get to that in a second. But before we get to that, why are we waiting to the last minute anyway? I'm of the impression, based on what I'm hearing, I have listened to Biden talk, and I've listened to McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, talk. Again, you go right back to the beginning. Who's telling the truth? Who ain't? Because I don't trust any of them any far I can throw them. But from what we're being told by McCarthy, it's a small detail, but I don't have any reason to think he's lying. But he wanted to start discussing this like 100 days ago. Um, Assuming that that's true, I agree with that. Why are we waiting till a week before the end of the world, in their mind, to even start negotiating about this? It has been said that Biden didn't want to negotiate with him. I would tend to think that's probably true, but I wasn't there. I don't hear these negotiations. I don't care who said what. They should have started this process a long time ago, and we wouldn't even be hearing about it right now. They'd be hashing it out in the Capitol building, and they will figure something out. They have to. But
Yeah,
why are we playing this right to the last second? It's a
yeah,
game to me and to them,
yeah.
and it's a power
It's
struggle
literally a
between
game.
two sides.
Yep, it's literally a game that they're playing, and the American people are the ones we're the pawns in the game. So there is no reason now. Like Chris said, I'm not privy to those conversations in the White House. I'm not sure why they weren't meeting. However, but both sides could have met. I mean, they work literally a few blocks from each other. There is no reason some members of Congress can't walk down the White House and start negotiating there,
I
and vice
guarantee,
versa.
I
Biden works a couple
guarantee,
blocks away.
I guarantee we'd be in a better situation today if they would have started talking about this back in February or March or even April, beginning of April. It,
100%.
we would be in a better position today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that being said, we do have one other issue I want to address, and that's the 14th Amendment. They're trying to use that, in my opinion, as an end run around the Congress for President Biden. I have my feelings. I have a couple things. I did try to do a little research on this. But what's your opinion on trying to go that route? There's a lot of uh, talking heads talking about this, and it gets confusing because you listen to one side, they say you can do it, the other side says you can't. So, what's your
Yeah.
opinion
Yeah.
on that? And then I'll give you mine.
Yeah. For one, I'd like to find a long-term resolution to this. So it shouldn't be every year that, say Democrats are in charge next year and they're holding it up. And I wouldn't agree with that, or Republicans again. We need to end this game. It's the United States government. We pay our bills. It has to be.
I agree,
We are the
and I
leading.
agree with that. Just so everybody knows, we do agree on that. We have to pay our
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah, and that money, if you take out a bill, a dollar bill or $20 bill, whatever, all debts, are payable. This is legal tender. Our entire economy depends upon our ability. We're a fiat currency, which is along with every other country on earth. But out of all fiat currencies, the United States is the strongest one. Historically, it's been that way. Right now, it's that way, and it looks like it'll be that way for a long term in the future. So, to guarantee that, I mean, and for those not aware, the 14th Amendment was, it came about during
Wait,
right
I
during
got my little
Reconstruction.
pocket constitution here, so we need to refer back. And the reason for this is in case we have to refer
I
to.
have a pocket Constitution as well.
Now I'm a Gen X here, folks. I go
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
old school little paper book. He's got all his technology and bullshit. I'm going this route. But the
yeah,
reason
yeah.
for this
But they
for
say the
your
same thing,
computer is
so
so we can
uh,
actually. we don't have photographic memories, folks. So we're going to
Yeah,
try to give information as best as possible. And one of those ways is to actually read exactly what it says. So
yeah, yeah.
you want to read
Readily
it to
available to
everybody, Josh?
anybody, by the way. Yeah, yeah. That's fine. And like, readily available to anybody. Just Google Constitution, Google,
This is,
and it'll come up.
and you know what? Um, this isn't a suggestion. This is the law of the land, folks. That's
Yep,
that.
yep. That's exactly right.
And it doesn't
And you'll
vary.
see,
His version is
and
going to be the same as mine. Opinions
yeah,
may vary, but this
yeah.
doesn't.
And that's exactly what I was going to bring up. You'll see even and I think this is one of the amendments that's kind of, and this is just a section of the amendment, by the way. It's amendment 14, but this is section 4 that we're referring to. You'll see it's written, it's not like old English or anything, and you'll see how our opinions will differ so wildly on it, even though, and we're reading from the same text, so you kind of see how this can get played out, and why constitutional lawyers are in play, and why Supreme Courts and the way you interpret the law and all that comes into play. But
And keep in
the
mind, the lawyers that are arguing this on the Democrat side and the Republican side um, are in the same boat that everybody else is. They have their disagreements about what this actually says and what it means. I'm not a
that's exactly correct.
constitutional attorney. I don't think Josh is. If he is, I didn't know it. But
No,
it's a huge problem because you
hey,
take five different people, read this. It's like reading a passage in the Bible. I can read a passage and five other people and have a completely different outlook on what that actually meant. But go
yep,
ahead and
yep.
read it, Josh. Let's at least tell everybody what the actual words are.
Yeah, yeah. So the 14th Amendment, Section 4, it states the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of or emancipation of any slaves. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So again, pretty simple. It's you know two three sentences long, and it's written pretty straightforward. But even the way it's written, the time period that it was written in, all that matters.
And
And
it was actually ratified in 1868, I believe, by Andrew Johnson. It was post Civil War, which brings
yeah, yeah,
Josh and I
post
to
civil.
our disagreement. I believe, based on the things that I've tried to research, that it was actually an amendment due to um, giving, I guess at the time, giving President Johnson, was Johnson, right? Jackson, Andrew
Jackson.
Jackson, giving him an end run around the Congress to not pay bills that were incurred by the Confederacy of the United States or the Confederacy during the Civil War. They were rebels. They were uh, I don't know what you want to call them all. I mean, they were. It was a huge problem back in the day, but they were. That was a real insurrection. And basic point of it was to not pay bills or debt incurred by anyone supporting that or or supporting slavery. Part of what they were trying to do was because slaves were freed at the time. Um, and Southern, anybody who was of Confederate mindset at the time wanted to be paid back for their loss of property. That's absolutely ridiculous. People aren't property. But the 14th Amendment, in my opinion, was based on that, and we were not paying any debts that were incurred by the Confederacy at the time.
And that's where we'll differ, because I'll read this, and it makes perfect sense to me. So it's there's no, no hidden meanings. Now you have to be aware it was passed right after or right during Reconstruction, so the country was just joining back together. We were becoming one under the Union again. But Section 4 clearly says the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, incurred for payment of bound incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned. So just that sentence alone right there, it's the validity of the public debt of the United States. It shall not
and
be questioned. So
and
it's
and,
like I don't understand where we came to this debt ceiling, because it's clear in our Constitution that our debts must be paid. And if it's not that way, if it's not interpreted that way, why is it not?
well,
Why do we
it
have an
brings us
option to not pay?
to this point. He may be right. I may be wrong. I may be right. Josh may be wrong. We don't know. We
Yeah.
didn't write it. We weren't there during the day, but as you see, we each have our opinion about what this means.
Yep.
I'm also going to add that I don't believe our founding fathers were looking for any kind of tyrannical, one-sided behavior. And I don't care who the president is, whether it was them, Ulysses Grant, Abraham Lincoln, George Bush, Obama, Clinton. I don't care. Pick one. I don't think that you can use this as an end run around Congress. Congress holds the power of the purse, and they make the laws according to the bill paying. Do they do it right? Not my opinion for the most part. Um, but I think this gives any president, Republican or Democrat, um, a unilateral way to spend our money, pay what debts they want to pay. And I don't agree with
Well,
that for any president.
the thing with that is, though, at the end, the Congress does control the purse. So the president is not authorized, and there's nothing either in this amendment or in anything else under U.S. law that authorizes the president, unless through executive order. But even doing that, it has to be under stringent terms. So, like, say, declaring a 30-day. Uh, you want to send troops to Iraq for 30 days. That can be done under executive order. That's technically spending money, but it would be coming out of the Defense Department's budget. So things like that. However, Congress has already approved the budget for it. So these are laws that Congress passed. It's not saying that the president can pass a law, but if they pass a law, and we need to pay for whatever they pass, because
Right.
that's how
And that
we're in a
and that I agree with. One other point to this is if you go farther on, this is what comforts me about the 14th Amendment. If you if you go on to what is it here, Section 5, uh, or I'm sorry, let's see here. Wait, now I'm lost here. Section 5. Read Section 5. It says Congress will have. I lost my spot here, and I don't have my glasses
Congress
on.
shall have power to enforce.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what
Section 5 is
comforts
really
me
short.
about
It
it.
just says Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. So
Yeah,
real
and that's
short, sweet.
basically the entire 14th Amendment. But
Yeah,
all that to say, we don't necessarily agree on that. However, either way, whether we agree or not, or they get their shit together and start figuring this out, even if you enact that, it's going to be litigated. It's going to run them past the deadline because Obama he didn't try to do it, but this conversation came up in 2011. And
yeah.
from what I read, his attorneys even said it's not really a winning argument. Um, and again, even if they try this, this could take weeks and throw us way past this X date of January 1st or June 1st. Sorry, having a Joe Biden moment here. My head ain't working right. But
You
either
both
way,
getting up there in age, man.
I mean, I'm still 40 something years younger than old Joe,
Hey,
but I can see the early progression that started happening to him in 1975. But like I said, this would not still, in
so
my opinion, get settled by the first, even if they try to go this route. And then we go into default, and that will, in my opinion,
yeah, and
again, not
it
being an
would it
economist,
would
it
be
will rock the
yeah,
world. The world will suffer through our default, and
yeah,
that's pretty
and
much a
and and it
fact.
will get for sure, for sure. Yeah, our economy touches every single aspect of the world. I mean, you'd have to live on some remote country, not having any trade agreements whatsoever with anybody for you to not be affected by the United
Or
States.
live in
China will be affected. Russia will be. Everybody,
Or you can live in
everybody
DC.
will
I'm
be
sure
affected. So, Chris,
they're living in a bubble. They won't be affected.
oh yeah, yeah. If you work for Congress, and by the way, one of the things that happens during the default is that Congress still gets paid. So they made sure to squeeze in their little thing.
Yeah,
But Chris, I
and
wanted to ask you just real quick, moving forward, we're at the position we're in now. Republicans want one thing, Democrats want one thing. Moving forward, how should this be? Should we come across this every year? Should this be relitigated? So we have Congress pass a law, and then in a couple years we're going to have Congress reapprove every law. Like how should we move forward?
I'm
From the situation that we're in.
I'm of the opinion you could do away with the debt ceiling. If it, I mean, there would be a lot of moving parts to that. But look, it's as simple as this to me. I have a debt ceiling in my house. Okay,
Yep.
you operate on a budget and operate on a budget in the government, you take in a lot of money. And but you've got to stop the spending. I don't care what they spend as long as they have the money to do it. I prefer they did and didn't waste it. But in my mind, moving forward, you have got to rein in the spending. There's no option to me. And if that involves doing away with the debt ceiling and creating we have a budgeting office. They obviously don't know how to budget. But if we do the same shit in our house that they do to our country, we're never going to get out of this. So I say they have got to get on board with clamping down on the spending, and out of that spending, the way, just for a last point here, I did listen to Biden talk after the G7 summit here, and this is my point. I listened to him before he headed back to America, and he's given 250, or he's pledging $250 million to the World Pandemic Fund, World Bank. I don't want to do that. That to me is wasted money. We're back sending money to uh, and F-16s potentially now to Ukraine. There is a lot of money we could not spend that I think we would agree on. Some stuff we wouldn't, but got to cut the spending, man. It's as simple as that to me.
There is. I mean, too. Those social programs are very important in the United States. By the way, they allow us to connect with emerging economies and things like that. So, people in sub-Saharan Africa that are starving and they see a U.S. aid bag of grain, that means the world. That shows even as little. And I remind, $250 million is a penny compared to what we spend yearly on anything. So I think those programs do, and it's a small price to pay to bring about goodwill in the world.
No,
Now we have
this was for
programs
the
that run
pandemic.
billions
For
of dollars.
This was for a
You know,
pandemic fund. The pandemic that we're going to have them. They're never going away. But
yeah,
where are we putting our money? I'm all for helping people around the world. I'm all for what you just said. I completely agree. But at some point, I could go help every neighbor in my neighborhood. But eventually, I'm going to run out of money. And guess what? I'm out of money. I can't help anybody anymore.
yeah, but it it's a little different from that. It'd be like you helping every neighbor, but you're Jeff Bezos,
But what?
and you print the money.
Yeah.
So it's an artificial limit that we set on ourselves. I mean, I 100% agree. We have to control spending. We ran deficits in this country since Clinton. We have not been able to balance the budget in this country. Both sides, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, none of them have been able to balance the budget. I agree, it has to change. We do have to get into real deep discussions and figure out why we're spending $3 trillion a year. But yeah, man, we have to have those hard discussions, and we've got to come together because at the end of the day, the ones that's going to be paying it's you.
Yeah.
Remember, your interest rates are going to go up. Borrowing is going to become difficult for you, not for the rich, for you. So keep that in mind, and I hope I
All that
sincerely hope that both sides can come together and agree on something.
all that to say, folks, is you just heard it from him, a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I mean, we just solved a lot of this problem here in the last 30 minutes. And they're just going to keep playing their little fuck games. And I don't agree with what the government's doing. I don't care what side they're wants what. I do care. But they got to sit down and act like adults. They got to stop acting like 5 year
Yep,
old children. And that's that.
that's exactly right.
So,
Yep, yep.
boom, common ground. There you go, folks.
There you go.
But we
So
got to
yeah,
do
that's
we got to do common ground down here at our level, right? because they're not going to
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
get
it
it up
starts
there.
here.
They're never going to
It starts
understand
here.
what's going on down here in common folk world. Folks, listen,
And
we
the
have to
reason they're
find
playing this
common
game,
ground, folks. We have to.
yeah, yeah, the reason they're playing this game is because we are divided. So they know Republicans know if they go back to their base and say, "Hey, we won," that's going to create a thing, and vice versa for Biden. He comes back and hey guys, we got what we wanted. That's great, but that's not helping the country overall. So
Yeah.
it starts at the ground level with me and you, your neighbors, and hopefully we can make this place a little bit better. But
Well, look,
yeah, it starts at the bottom, like Chris
in
said.
the end, I got to go to work here in a little bit. And I guess you're going to work too. I'm going to see you later. Josh and I are going to go make some
Yep.
money so we can pay Uncle Sam so we can try to fix the fucking debt ceiling. And I don't know. We'll see
Yep.
what happens. But we got to do our civic duty today. Go to work. Pay the man.
Yes, sir.
So I'll see
So
everybody
thank you
next
guys for
week. That's
joining
all I
us
got,
another
Josh.
week. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully you guys keep coming back and tuning in. And give us a like, subscribe, share it to your people that are like minded, and help us grow here.
Yeah, and if you're lurking in the corners, all you people that are watching and not giving us a thumbs up, stop it. Thumbs up, like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want to talk about. We're open to any suggestions you
Exactly.
all have. Have a good week, folks.
Exactly. Have a good night.